Welcome to Dear Upbringing. I'm Hannah.
I'm Kelty.
I don't know how we started out this cheesy, but we're going to work on it, you guys. This is our
empowerment episode.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's like an empowerment Dear Upbringing fusion.
It is. It's an opportunity for us to get comfortable in front of the camera because we're shy twin introverts, to talk through some issues and some struggles because I feel like it's a lot harder to read and work through things like that. And it's nice to get somebody's real issue out on the table to kind of hash through and learn through together.
Yeah. And this episode, we're not going to be bringing a specific issue in, but we're going to be sort of talking about some of the ways that we approach these issues. Mm-hmm. So it's like a primer to our crazy, like what's in there, what to expect a little bit, so that you guys can kind of be a little bit more familiar with our approach.
And so that we can get familiar with that approach.
Because we don't know what we're doing.
Well, I think we have a lot of ideas. We're really passionate about this stuff. And we need to get more organized around it.
Yeah.
We love and have loved talking to each other about parenting. We've loved talking to our friends about parenting stuff in little sound bites, in little moments and ideas, and also in kind of longer diatribe types of situations. But to actually connect to another person and to kind of, I don't know, like send information out that is received in an understood way. I feel like we have to get organized and have some kind of a structure, I guess.
I feel like this is one of our kind of struggles is Hannah is constantly trying to put structure and organization to what we do. And I'm the voice that's constantly saying, we do that a lot. Let's just wing it. Let's just put ourselves out there and be organic and like fucking tear up the notes and just do it. So that's our dilemma.
And that's the thing is like that you're focused on our experience of just output and practice and doing it.
I am.
Which is incredibly important. And I'm focused on how that information and experience is going to be received. When we just have our experience together, nobody's watching, so we don't have to worry about how it's received or how it's taken.
It's not that I'm not worrying about how it will be received or taken. I think people will like that we're just rolling with it and doing it. Not that we're like throwing total organization and structure to the wind, but like,
okay,
I think working authentically is going to be connected to. I think that's what people connect to.
I hope so.
Hopefully you forwarded through this whole part so far, because we're not editing any of these. We're just
not going to do it. Don't have time for that. Okay. We are busy.
I looked
people.
at Al like, no, we're not. He's
Al,
like, no, we're
not doing it. Okay. We're keeping going.
Okay.
So what do we want to talk about today? Our structure.
Yeah.
We have, as we've been parenting, as we've been talking about parenting, as we've been reading and studying and training all this parenting stuff, 4 kind of main parts of a process have fallen into line for us. Those parts are kind of process oriented, I would say, but also they can kind of move back and forth.
They're steps in the line of
solving a problem,
of solving a challenge or working around a challenge, but they also stand alone as kind of like big values and big reminders. So the first step is respect. The second step is connect. Thanks. The third step, thanks for connecting with me on that one. The third step is to solve, and the fourth step is to trust. We wish that it spelled out something better. It's like,
it's not cool.
Yeah.
So respect, connect, solve, trust. Yeah. That's kind of our 4-step infrastructure to how we move through struggles with our kids and how we talk to our friends about this stuff. So this is kind of our work in progress. And I like that. I do like, Kel, the idea of using these Dear Upbringing videos as an opportunity to work through this structure, to hear feedback from you guys about what you're learning, what you're thinking, how you're feeling about all of it, how you learn best, because this isn't just about us, it's also about you guys. So what else?
I'm glad we established that it's not all about us.
Okay.
But yeah.
I feel like sometimes that has to be said.
Okay.
What else?
I think just briefly so we've been getting a lot of Dear Upbringings sent in, just amazing messages from people sharing their challenges with their kids. And I think how we're going to sort of approach those things is through discussing the 4-part kind of, we don't have a fucking name for it even. We'll come up with a name.
4 powers.
Yeah, the 4 steps.
Something.
There are 4. What the 4s?
The 4s.
We'll be explaining the 4s in kind of like a bigger picture way. And then we'll also be diving in.
As in like mindset, awareness.
Values.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like build the foundation for those things. And then we'll be diving more specifically into the issue to talk about how those play out like in the moment.
How we approach that.
How, like,
literally.
what is respecting my child in this moment when I'm going to like lose my shit mean? How do you connect with a kid that's in this moment? What does solving look like when I'm going up against all these challenges and whatever? Yeah. And then how do you trust when all else fails? Or maybe some things haven't failed. So that's our hope.
So that's kind of how it's going to be broken down. Yeah. I don't know. Do we want to describe the 4 things?
Yeah,
and
let's do
maybe
it.
at the end of the episode, we can, if we have time, can go into the empowerments, which are on our website. But I think those are going to be really woven into all of this a lot.
I agree.
And so it might make sense for us to kind of just expound on them a little in person.
So we have 12 empowerments, and they're on our website. You can read. And they're just kind of our, not like our mantras or reminders, but just like our core, a lot of our core values that we use to come back to.
Touchstones.
Yeah, touchstone is good because you can just kind of like run through them and they stand out to you. They're phrases that remind us of our responsibility in these challenges and in these hard times to control less and trust more ultimately. And so they crop up a lot in these challenges that we talk about with our own families, with our friends and clients' families. They're constantly popping up, and you're going to get to know them well through these empowerment episodes and Dear Upbringing videos. So that's all I have to say about those.
Okay. But we're not going to talk about them right now.
We're not.
Well,
I mean, like right this moment?
Right this moment.
No,
we're going back.
We might read them later, yeah.
We're going to get more organized with this, you guys. Don't worry. Okay, so let's go back to our 4 powers, our 4 forces that we're talking about. Respect is the first one. Respect. I would venture to guess that we all say, I respect my kid. I'm a respectful parent. What does that actually look like?
Yeah,
what does that feel like?
What does that feel like? What does that mean in the challenging times? I think it's easier for us to respect our kids when things are going really well and they're cute, angelic and untroubled and going with the flow, and it's a lot harder in the tough times, and it's a lot more important in the tough times, and that's why we're talking about it. And we talk about the step of respect as really like the initial bitch slap to us as we approach this challenge. So when you're having a challenge and you get that feeling like ding, 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 it's time to start the 4 steps. The respect one is the biggest one that just kind of like pops the bubble.
Sets the scene.
It sets the scene. Yeah. It tenderizes. We need to think of like a better than like a raw meat metaphor.
Say
but like
prepares.
I picture myself like getting tenderized. Maybe it's almost like good massage, like mental metaphor.
But it sets the scene for your brain. It brines your experience.
Okay, brining, good.
Yeah,
Let's keep going with the food metaphors.
But it gets you, at least it gets us, starting with respect has gotten us in the place we need to be to move forward positively, collaboratively, respectfully, empathetically, all of those things that come after. It seems like the forefront, the first thing we should do.
It does, yeah. And I think that the first step within that is thinking of yourself as the advocate. So channeling this role as not the commander-in-chief, not the boss.
Not the dictator.
Not the crazy dictator, which is, and I mean, I think most people would think of themselves like they do, like they think of themselves respecting their kid in the really good moments. They would think, sure, I'm their advocate. I'm going to hold their hand crossing the street. I'm going to do these things.
I told them what to do and they did it.
Right.
Awesome.
But in those challenging times, it's harder to embrace the advocate.
Well, I think it's hard, and sorry to interrupt, because our kids are born from us. They are of us in some ways, but they are not us. We do not own them. They are separate people And I feel like that's the first thing we need to be acknowledging with respect, is that our kids are separate people. They're not robots. They're not little mini me's. They're their own people with their own needs, their own rights. And that kind of leads into the idea of advocate. Even though we're in charge as parents, we're not letting them run the house. We're in charge. We're in control of a lot of things. But we have to be really sensitive with that control and be balanced and fair and very conscientious. And so I think that's what led us to talk about this role and channeling this idea as an advocate, because that honors that individuality of our kid, that honors our role and responsibility to see to their best interests.
Yeah, to be sort of that like benevolent supporter instead of the crazy dictator. Like an advocate isn't seeking kind of like a top-down hierarchical. Yeah. You have trouble with that word.
I
sometimes.
do.
Yeah.
It's cute.
Yeah. Mentality. They're pursuing a supportive, engaging, collaborative.
Well, when you advocate for someone, you see them as you see their humanity. You see that they deserve the same rights as other people, that they deserve to be honored and respected. And then you also see that in relation to your needs, other people's needs. So you are the one that gets that meta view of everybody's needs, and it's your job as the advocate to see that all those needs are met, i.e. the people in your family and in your household, because you're the one in charge.
I think that's really what it is about too, is thinking about that in the greater sense of the community or in your community, being your family. And being the advocate for that is making sure that everyone's needs are met, juggling all of those like clashing expectations and needs and agendas, abilities and all of those things all at once.
So what does that look like in advocating for our kids? So specifically for them, what does that look like, Kel? So embracing them and seeing them as their own person
is the number one thing.
They have fewer skills, less experience than us, but they are absolutely deserving of our respect. In what 3 areas? We talk about 3 areas usually.
We talk about
our respect is needed.
Respecting their body. We talk about respecting their feelings, and we talk about respecting their will. And those 3 things, I feel like when we're not doing that, one or more of those is when we're usually struggling a lot. And that's why this is the first step too, is acknowledging their feelings. So accepting their feelings, recognizing that they have a right to have those feelings.
That their feelings could be different than ours.
That they absolutely can and should be. That we're respecting their bodies as their own. We do not own them. They're small and manipulatable, and we cared for them as infants and had a great responsibility to their bodies for a long time. But as they grow up and grow older, we have to be really sensitive about how we support their understanding of their own body, of their own physical space, all these things.
And I would say as a kind of a subset to that body is their developmental readiness. So respecting their body is being very careful with it physically and having those boundaries and awareness, but it's also understanding what their body can do and can't do, what their feelings can do and can't do, what kind of their general developmental sphere of where they are, because I think so many of the problems that come up is because we're disrespecting their body or their feelings or their will because we just don't know what they're supposed to be feeling or deciding or doing with their bodies.
And I think some of that is just there are ways that we can get more educated about what those developmental milestones are. A lot of people read books about them, ask their pediatrician, check in with their neighbors and their friends to be like, my kid's doing that. Is that normal? But ultimately, we have this perspective that readiness is when they do it. We're meeting them where they are, as they are, with the assumption as the advocate that they are always doing their best, always trying their utmost, and
giving them the benefit of the doubt that they deserve their own unique experience in those 3 realms, and that it's our job to help support them into developing those 3 things, not meeting our expectations, which I think is so easy for us to do.
Yeah. Anything else about the respect?
I think the whole idea of respect is setting the scene to work with, not against our kid, to work side by side, to do, work with, not do to, is the idea.
Yeah. And I think it is that priming stage, because it's it clears my head in the moment. Like when I start getting embroiled and feeling challenged and feeling frustrated, when I go to that first step, it like calibrates me to, oh yeah, like here's where we should be. Here's where my big picture brain should be. Here's this little person who isn't me, isn't my my slave, who is struggling through their own challenges to get their own needs met. And that's like the first kind of like snap bubble popping thing that helps me then kind of like lean in to the challenge after that.
Well, and I think another big thing we talk about as the advocate, it's not just seeing them as separate and as of deserving to have their own experiences and have their own needs met. It's not just knowing developmentally what they should kind of be going through, what's a reasonable expectation versus unreasonable one, but it's also just seeing them. That's part of the humanity part, is seeing that they're more than just a behavior, that their behaviors represent an unmet need or a lacking skill, and that it's our job as the advocate to help get those needs met, not just stop behaviors. That's what a dictator does, or a commander or something. But as an advocate, it's looking deeper. It's going to the root cause of behaviors, not just sitting on the surface with all of the symptoms, screaming, pulling her hair out, and freaking out. It's really getting to the root and being willing to dive in, because you believe that there's a reason for what they're doing, and you trust that there's a good reason for it, and that you're going to help them move through that.
But with that comes kind of like realigning a lot of your basic assumptions about your family dynamic, about your kid, about yourself. I mean,
I feel like our culture does not look at parenting from this perspective necessarily. I think it looks at it from a really hierarchical perspective, of kind of a top-down approach of, I'm the person of the family. What I say goes down, and then you older sibling goes down to the younger sibling. It's a very top-down mentality that you see in businesses, that you see in churches or government. And I don't think that necessarily needs to apply to families. I think it's a really big...
That's a soft way to say it. I think it should not apply to families.
It should not apply to families. Well, I think some people believe it should, but we don't believe.
We're saying what we believe.
Yeah, we don't believe it should apply to families. It doesn't need to. Letting that go does not mean your family's going to be crazy and that you are going to be a permissive parent. And that's a huge part of what we're trying to convince everybody about.
I think that's people grip to that sort of those old power structures because they're worried that they can't kind of make things work through that lens.
If I respect, then I'm a pushover.
Yeah.
My kid should respect me. Yeah. I think that's the old mentality, and I think it's something that we just naturally react to.
They should they should earn my respect also.
Instead of be born deserving respect.
Deserving of it. Yeah. And I think this is something we'll come back to within each of the 4 sections, but practicing this as a parent, practicing this first step of respect is... You have to think about it as like the first step into really, not just really alleviating a lot of the challenges, not just making your experience better and clearing your head so you don't get so like batshit crazy and have a hard time, but also modeling respect. Like you're the advocate, you raise an advocate. Like you are thinking about these big picture things, somebody's right to disagree, somebody's body that's deserving of respect, somebody's feelings that you should be able to empathize with or respect as their own and different than yours. And you're therefore imparting these values to your kid. Every time you do it, every time you nail this first step, they are learning that they should do that for themselves, so that they deserve that for themselves, so people don't touch them, so people don't disrespect them, so people don't cast them off as other because they disagree. And then they learn to do that with other people as well.
Right. We're not just building this within our families. We're setting our child off having learned this and having integrated that so that they can treat other people in that way. They can treat themselves in that way. They can raise families that way. This is a bigger picture reason that we're beginning with respect, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. On to connect.
Connect.
Our 4 process
for whatever.
Plan.
Yeah. Is connect. And we spent a lot of time talking about respect. We're going to try and move through these. Okay. We know your time is valuable, but we want to get into this. We want you to understand where we're coming from and how we're organizing these Dear Upbringing episodes. We feel like it's important, if you have time when you're vacuuming or doing whatever, to listen to this.
Go on a power walk. You deserve it.
Yes, you deserve it. So the idea of connect is really powerful, we think. We think that the power of connection
is the biggest tool we have.
The biggest tool we have. I think that it's very easy for us to think that control is the biggest tool we have and to rely on control a lot. I find myself doing that a lot. You find yourself doing that a lot.
Everybody does.
I think our culture, that's how we roll. When you can't make someone do something, you control them. So you offer them a reward or an incentive. You give a punishment or what people call a consequence. And that motivates them to do whatever it is. And that's based on the assumption that our kids just need motivation to do something or not do something that we want them to do. Not that they're doing the best they can already. Ross Greene talks about that a lot, and we totally believe that. But the idea is we don't want to have to control. Control it's effective sometimes, but the concern about control is that it doesn't teach kids skills. They don't really learn any skills besides that you can control somebody by giving them something or taking something away. So that's a skill that they learn when we control.
It doesn't build your connection with your kid either.
Definitely doesn't. So, if anything, it separates you guys more because they're like, this asshole is controlling me. People know when they're controlled, including our kids. So they're very sensitive
we'll cycle
to that.
Back to this idea of control, but we feel like it's sort of the antithesis of connection in a lot of ways, which is why I think you called it out.
Yes, exactly.
But I think briefly, I think a lot of people think I connect with my kid, like we'd said during respect, like in the easy times, it's easy to connect. You know, when you're cuddling and you're talking or you're reading a book, you're connecting. Those are that sounds so nice. These are the things, the skills that we need to bring into those harder times. And I feel like it's really easy for your connection and your ability and desire to connect to just be like, poof, the second your kid starts exhibiting some challenging behaviors or is struggling.
How do we interpret connection then?
Right. How do you bring connection in when you're really frustrated, really irritated, at your wit's end, trying to get something done and unable to get something done, confused and baffled by your kid's behavior, repulsed probably by your kid's behavior often. So how do you connect with that, you know?
I think connect, the idea of connect and the word connect makes you think of it something that you do. And I think it's in some ways that it is, but I think
to initiate it often. But
when we're in a stressful situation and we think of connection, it's literally like, get in the car.
You're like, I got down to their level, I made eye contact, and I said what I need again.
Right. And so it's a very one-way kind of idea. Yeah. And the power of connection that we're talking about is a collaborative process.
It's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. Any problem we have with our kids is because their needs aren't getting met, our needs aren't getting met. And to solve this problem, it requires both of us. And anytime that we just solve the problem, that's usually because we're exerting control and they lose out. And we lose out, our relationship does. So the idea of connection is that it takes two, and that it's not so much giving, or it's partially us giving and paying attention and doing certain things, but it's also the receptivity and the listening skills.
It's about being open and deciding, I don't know the end of this story. I don't actually know what they want or need. Like scrapping your script that you think, oh my God, this happens every time. They just want this. They just need this, or they're going to do this if I don't this. Right. Like ditch that whole totally limiting script. And it's really hard to just be totally open and decide you don't understand and you want to connect with them to seek understanding, to be totally open and get in there and learn something about what they're going through.
Think about it like a hostage negotiator type situation, or something where you need to be. Well, I think the idea, the role that we're channeling
is not hostage
negotiator. The role is be an empath. It's to channel an empath. And I think that we chose that because we didn't say channel the doormat. We didn't say channel the mama who takes it all on and then feels like resentful shit. We didn't, you know what I mean?
Or like the the non-active listener, the like you'd said, like getting in their face as connection.
Right. A clear communicator, you could say. No, that's not what it is. An empath is someone who seeks to connect, who seeks to understand. Yeah. And that's what connecting is all about. And it's not just communicating what your needs are and how you see the situation, but it's being willing to sit, shut the F up, and listen to what they are coming to the table about, to show them that balance of power and that balance of openness to communication.
Yeah. What was I going to say?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Kind of kept talking there.
Yeah, you did. I think I was just going to say that it's non-judgmental. And like we'd said about ditching the script, it's really going in with like a total like blank slate and open heart. And that's the hardest thing to do in the moment when you're being triggered and having all this baggage. But hopefully we've kind of just like burst the bubble with the respect thing. And then that's helping you take the next step into connection, which is non-judgmental, which is unconditional, which is just totally open. I feel like we've been through that.
But I guess the idea of it is that, and we all know this, if we don't have a connection with another person, we're far less likely to cooperate with them. We're far less likely to enjoy our time with them, or want to work with them, or sit down at the table with them, or get in the bath with them, or get in the car, or do any of those things. And connection is just, the idea of it in general is really important, but it also is how problems get solved, is you connect with the other person first. You have to fucking do it. Sorry. Like, this is one of those, the next step, as you know, is solve, but oftentimes I find myself, I kind of forget the connection
jump
part.
To solve.
And I jump to solve, and I'm like, why isn't this working? What the fuck? Like, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's because they have no reason to want to solve this problem with me. They have no reason to want to listen to me. This is a normal thing to
skip steps, and we talk about that all the time, is we skip steps. Like sometimes I skip the respect step, and I'm trying to connect, and I'm still so angry at them, and they're doing this, and they want this, and they want that, and it's like, I can't connect without respecting first.
So anyway, so this connection step is kind of important.
Kind of important
Like if you're going to get to the actual solve step,
Yeah.
which is where shit gets done.
Yeah.
So,
but to wrap up the connection thing, sort of like we did the respect step, this is a moment for you to be growing as a person. This is the time for you to be the adult, like actually be the adult, and let go of your preconceived notions. Let go of all your baggage and crap.
that's what in charge looks like.
Put the bag down, stop the dishes, and get down there with them. Like specifically, we talk about connecting in terms of like physical proximity, not yelling from the other side of the house, not cold shouldering, not
touch.
Whatever. Yeah, a good caring touch, good eye contact,
Engaging with what they're interested in. So before you try to solve something or talk about something or do something,
getting in there.
figure out what board game they're working on while they're ignoring whatever else is going on.
Yeah.
Engaging with whatever it is, leaning into who they are and what
Where
they're
they
into
are.
and where they are, to say, I'm here. We're side by side. We're at the same level here.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty important too.
Yeah.
What else does that look like?
It looks like we'd said, asking questions instead of just stating your own agenda and your own needs, which is, they're first and foremost at the top of your mind, understandably. But asking questions and connecting and validating their feelings and their experience. Seems like you don't want to do that. Seems like you're feeling really frustrated, or how are you feeling? Or
Why don't you want to, jump in the bathtub? How are you feeling about this?
seems like you don't want to do this. Why? What's going on?
But again,
What's up?
it's continuing that side-by-side approach. It's continuing the idea that you're working with, not doing to. And connecting is saying, again, you can trust me. We're in this together. I'm in charge, but I have your best interests in mind, and I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm helping support you, not control you.
And it's a really big exercise for us in restraint, because it is, when you, like you said, when you want to connect, that means I want to connect to tell you exactly what I need and why, and how you're not doing it and how that is making me feel. And that is not what we're talking about here. This is the big ask about connecting, is
It's collaborative.
biting your tongue, listening, asking questions, being open. Just put a pin in it. Give it a little breathing space and a little time, and push it onto their plate for a minute and see what happens. There's going to be time for you to bring your own agenda to the table.
And connecting too, chances are the reason that a connection needs to happen is because you have expectations for your kids that they aren't able to meet for whatever reason yet. And that typically looks like crazy behavior, resistance, backtalk, sass, all of these different things. And we're asking that you connect to those things, which is a really big ask.
Connect with the scary, hard stuff.
But the idea of connection is also, it is the most pure form of attachment, which we have with our babies when they're on us, when they're in us, when they're very young. And then that form of attachment changes. And I like to think of it as an opportunity to nurture that attachment and to continue to help them feel like, oh, mom's here. Yeah. Papa's here. We're connected. I'm being cared for. I'm being loved.
Thinking about it like a thread that doesn't break in the hard times. That, like, it's so easy, like we said, to feel connected in those easy moments, but, like, keep that thread going. And hold on to that.
And it's being pulled back.
Yeah.
And I think that essentially, we don't want to get all sciencey and get into the literature too much, but the idea is that in these tougher moments, when we're dysregulated, when our kids are uncomfortable inside and having trouble managing their behavior or their feelings or what they're saying, they're needing us to co-regulate with them. And co-regulating is connecting. It's saying, I'm your attachment figure. I'm someone safe that you can trust, and I'm going to connect to you, to not to like take care of you or fix you or whatever, but just to hold space around this struggle that you're experiencing, and to get to the bottom of it together, and that you can really trust me, and that I'm there for you. And the more that we do this and connect with our kids and show them in these tough moments that it doesn't have to get worse. It can actually get better. Things don't have to get crazier. They can get clearer. That helps them learn to figure those things out for themselves. Eventually, they'll be feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, that just you're teaching them, you're helping them build that inner voice of examining their feelings, forgiving themselves,
thinking about their impact on other people.
Right, thinking about their impact, thinking about what other people might be going through.
Perspective taking,
basically. And so you're raising a little empath when you are the empath. Yeah. There's
pretty important
else
stuff.
I was going to say, and I totally forgot again.
You have 2 seconds to think of it.
I need more coffee.
Okay. Okay. That was it.
That's all I got.
So, we
Solving.
connected. So we've connected with our kid, whether or not it felt like it.
Okay. And that's what it is feeling like it, because sometimes people will be like, and people, I mean we, I'll be like, okay, I connected. I did all the things I thought that were right, that would help the situation, and it didn't like work. And I think, like Hannah said, this is all building, and a lot of this is invisible work. It's not like your kid is always going to just like fucking snap out of it all of a sudden and be like dive into your arms and be fine, which that happens a lot too. It actually,
it actually does. And the more you do it, the more the trust is of the connection.
Something we didn't say is, don't look for that reciprocation right away. Don't think that you failed in connecting just because they're still refusing to look at you or whatever the thing is.
But connecting is a very subtle process. It's not a trick.
Yeah.
So
and it takes time, and you have to just like have the faith that it's there and it's getting in there.
But
to them,
besides the building the relationship thing and the building of trust to allow for cooperation, I think the connecting is also a reason to calm our brains down. So when our kids are dysregulated, not feeling good, uncomfortable, when we're freaking shit out, our brains are in a place where we can't be problem solving. And that's oftentimes why problem solving doesn't work. Not just because they don't feel like being cooperative with someone who's treating them like shit. It's also because their brains are totally inflamed in a reactionary, non-thinking way, in a part of their brain that is not their prefrontal cortex, that is helping them make decisions and weigh judgments and make choices and things like that. So connecting helps calm those things down.
Primes us for the third step,
right?
Solving, which is where we actually are right now.
Right.
I don't know. What do you want to lead off with? Kind of.
Solving's fun.
Solving is the fun step.
Yeah.
If you let it be the fun step, it is the funnest step.
This is where you guys really get to collaborate, and where it can be very silly and very creative.
This is like, of the 4 steps, when I'm doing some of these by myself and I'm not with you or I'm not with my husband, like this step is the one that I end up feeling the most proud about and tell stories about later.
And like empowered by?
Yeah, and empowered by, like, guess what I did? And I really like dug deep and tried this thing, and I went wacky and did this thing, and like that's why it's kind of the fun step in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's where you get to be creative. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that you would like that. But
and I think that we talk about this step of solving as sort of channeling what we call the seeker. So
that's the role we're channeling.
Yeah, that's the role. What do you want to say about that?
The seeker is guided by curiosity. So again, not assuming that they know the right way to go about something, just like the empath didn't know the way our kid was necessarily feeling.
We don't have an
just
answer.
like the advocate didn't know exactly what they could or should be doing or necessarily needed. Having that openness and that curiosity, that is what the seeker is about. It's saying, I don't know what's going to work. And again, what works takes two people. So it has to be me suggesting
and
ideas,
what works
getting
one
creative.
day might not work the next day, 1 minute to another minute. Like the seeker.
We want to give hope right now.
Right. Okay. The seeker finds a way. Yeah. You're just going to find a way. You're just getting in there. It's thinking about it as like an exciting challenge.
So the seeker's optimistic.
Yeah.
The seeker is flexible and resourceful.
Silly.
Creative, kind of like determined and scrappy, not to like fix the problem necessarily, but to find a way to get everybody's needs met.
Yeah.
If not in this exact moment, in the long game, the short game and the long game. That's what the seeker is about.
When you said scrappy, all of a sudden I remember because I found this little tank top that's too small for my daughter, but it was from 2 years ago, and there used to be a little tiny pocket on the front, and I cut the pocket off. Because I remembered when I pulled it out that she'd wanted a tank top with no pocket, and it was like this epic meltdown about it. And I ended up being like, let's go get the scissors. We're going to cut this pocket right off. And we cut it off, and she wore it for like 2 years. Yeah.
That's a great example.
Like kind of scrappy.
But yeah, those ideas
you end up cutting up your kids' clothes and being proud about it kind of thing.
But this idea where there are no rules and that it's not like... It's important to have boundaries and limitations and routine and rhythm. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about in these moments when there's a challenge because you or want your kid to do something that they don't want to do.
Or stop doing something that you want them to, whatever.
And again, instead of using control, which doesn't build skills, doesn't nurture our relationship, we want to give them other skills. We want to give them skills of problem solving, of using creativity, of using humor. I think so much of this is this idea that like when they're babies, we have to problem solve everything. And we're not really including them. It's all our job. And then all of a sudden as they get older and toddler age, we're still putting that 100% on where we're problem solving and solving everything.
And maybe some people with way older kids the same.
Right, where we've done so much, and then all of a sudden they're saying, don't do that for me. No, I deserve a seat at this table. Or
vice versa. A lot of parents, I think, are compelled to say, you're 7 now. Figure it out.
That's so true, too.
And I think this is going to be years in the making. This is going to be, like we talked about before, a collaboration, a lifetime collaboration. And I like to think about this step, this solving, just like connecting and respecting, as a way, something we would extend to anyone in our life, not just our kids, a
coworker, a parent,
a
or whatever.
partner.
This is about your relationship. This is about skills, but it's also just about your relationship and how do you move through a challenge together and get stronger for it and get smarter for it and more able.
Yeah, and I think those kind of brilliant moments as our kids have gotten older in a lot of ways have been seeing them taking on those things on their own because we've been trying to practice it with them. Them saying, what could we do?
How can we problem solve this?
Or how can we problem solve this? Or saying maybe, or I have an idea, or any of those things makes me so happy seeing their little wheels turning and their negotiation skills. Well, I'll do this if you do this, or,
But that idea,
like
you said, Kel, that like a problem isn't ours to fix 100% and it's not theirs to fix 100%. And I think when we're in those moments of stress, I'm either being like, fucking put your clothes on, I'm going to lose it. Or I'm like, I have to do all of this stuff and I can't, and I have to get them in. And it's like you either put it all on them or put it all on yourself. And the seeker finds a way that both of you guys can be participating.
Yeah.
Because that's the job. You're still in charge. You're still doing the general thing. But the idea is, if we're raising kids, let's raise them to problem solve with us so that, they can be problem
lighten
solving.
the load a little.
Lighten the load a little bit. So some ideas. We always
Yeah.
talk about what can we problem solve ourselves first. So can we simplify the environment? Can we get some shit done first? Can we not have this backed up to this? Can we not...
Can we make a safer space?
Right.
Can we build in a snack before a thing so everyone's not hangry?
How do we get creative to mitigate stressful situations?
Yeah, and a lot of that work doesn't happen in the moment. It happens at the end of the night by yourself or with your partner on the phone with your friend.
Instead of beating yourself up.
This thing happened.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about it?
But it takes that mindset of, instead of dwelling and being pissed and being resentful.
Or shoving it under the rug and pretending it never happened.
Right. It's saying, there was a ding ding. This bothered me. This caused some problems.
Yeah.
What can I take on? What's my responsibility in this situation as the parent in charge, as the advocate, as the empath? What can I be doing as the seeker to kind of make this work? And then I think the second step, which is really important, and I think that we just overlook it all the time, is finding a way to involve our kid with it.
Yeah.
So I think that starts from a really young age and giving them agency in their own lives and finding ways that they can collaborate to set the table or to choose which color clothes that they have or to put fun things in a basket to get that stuff
cleaned up. Yeah.
Making it so that they understand that so many processes are collaborative already, so that when the problems come up, that's got to be a collaborative process too.
Yeah, because we're all a team, right?
Right. This is how it works. A problem?
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. We'll figure it out together. No big deal. It's not me against you. And that's the idea of the seeker is saying, we are walking arm in arm up this mountain together.
And
we're
we don't have all the answers. No. We're open. We're looking. We're similarly to
But the idea is having no particular agenda besides like, okay, we got to get in the car.
Forward moving, everything.
Progress. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think another way that kind of shows itself is through creativity and silliness and humor. And this was such a big one for me. This isn't something that I feel like it's easier to be silly with younger kids. And then when you get a lot of real pushback, when you come up against a kid who is not being funny, is not like engaging with you in a silly way, it's feels unnatural to be the one throwing out some jokes, throwing out some things, and you're getting this like stony face thing, or you're getting tears and anger still. And it's not that we want to be like making light of the feelings and experiences our kids are having, but I've noticed that the moments that I'm able to lean into pulling out ideas to be silly and to just keep things light. It's respectful but light. It helps me do better. This isn't just like any of the other parts, a tactic to get a result or to pursue my own agenda, but it actually helps my own mind frame so I'm able to advance things, to focus on that process and progress as we go, Well,
and the whole idea, upbringing is about growing up alongside our kids. And I think when we hit a struggle or a challenge, it's really easy to just lose our shit and to get frustrated and to get negative and to go to that place.
And to just tank.
And I think that when we think about doing this with our kid, all of a sudden we think about, wait, if I'm doing it with them, being really negative, being really frustrated, being really fatalistic, what is that serving us both? What is that teaching them skill-wise?
Yeah.
Like, we have to get our shit together and like model better through these challenges.
And we can't always do it.
No.
But that's what's so great is the times that we are able to do it, you can reflect back, if you're lucky, back and be like, what was different about that? Like, none of the things actually changed. My kids still refused or gave resistance to XYZ. We still went screaming out of the mall or the school or whatever it was. But I felt pretty good.
It weighed less.
Yeah. There was less of a burden. And it's because you're in the steps, but you're light and you're nimble and you're curious and you know that you gave it your all and you tried and you're like, and we talk about the matrix. You're outside the matrix. You're not sucked into the rabbit hole. And those times that we feel less successful aren't based on whether our kid did or didn't do like some sort of outcome that we would hope for, even though the outcome is valuable, but that we felt better about it, that we felt fulfilled, that we felt like we did all the things that we could.
Because chances are that they were probably interpreted that way too if we were also feeling that way.
Yeah.
That's the hope anyway. I think the seeker also asks questions, asks why. Like, why is this happening? So does my routine need to be simplified? Do we need to change up whatever it is? Does this socks before car thing even need to happen?
Yeah.
How necessary are these expectations I have? Let's question my
It's about
needs
questioning
and
yourself as much as the space, your child, the outside, everything.
Right. And then it's questioning them, like, how many hours of sleep have they been getting?
Yeah.
How many whatever? Like, it's asking questions.
But I think,
it's being open to...
Yeah. But I think questioning yourself is such a huge part of that. And it doesn't come easily to parents because there's this big pressure to have it all figured out, or to at least, like, you know, roll like you do, because you need to stay on top. You need to keep moving. You have this incredible responsibility of raising these little guys, you know? And so I think questioning yourself, it gets easier the more you do it, you know, and questioning each other.
And questioning ourselves in front of our kids. And part of being the seeker is saying, I don't know. To our kids, to ourselves, saying, I made a mistake. I messed up. That is absolutely valuable and incredibly valuable, so that we can be raising kids who can question themselves without their egos at stake, who aren't constantly trying to protect themselves and defend themselves, who can say, I kind of messed up on that one, or I don't know the outcome of this. Let's find out. Or I'm having a struggle and a problem with this person. Let's figure it out together to get both of our needs met. It's not just about my needs and exerting them over somebody else's needs.
Like the other two, it's really about cultivating that inner voice to get creative and ask questions and not take everything so personally.
And seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and to grow together with somebody and to, like, maybe have a little bit of fun in the process. Yeah. So, we've respected. We've connected. We've solved to the best of our abilities. And again, as you've mentioned, Kel, this isn't to say that all of the challenges are going to be resolved if we go through these 4 steps. That's not how life works. That's not how relationships work. That's definitely not how kids work, or parents. The idea is that we keep doing this process and invest in this process, because change is made over time in small little amounts that sometimes we almost can't even see. And that's why this 4th step is trust.
It's a big one.
Yeah. And like, when people tell me to trust, I'm like, fuck you. Don't tell me to trust.
Yeah. Well, I think
like,
trust
doesn't feel good.
When people say trust, they make it sound complacent, or like throwing your hands up and throwing the towel in and just
giving up, letting go.
Letting go is so hard. And I like to think of trust as keeping hold of that string we were talking about, but just kind of loosening your grip a little bit on whatever it is. You're still holding on, but just a little bit looser.
I feel like it's loosening up to lighten up enough that you enjoy life. And you're not just a crazy bitch all the time.
Yeah, but trust isn't just about all those things. Like, we think about this 4th step of trusting as kind of embodying what we call the believer. And that person, or that being, that embodiment that we try to channel is just has perspective. The believer sees it all. It's like you've got this, you're kind of channeling this old wise person who is like, it's going to be okay. Everyone's doing their best.
I've put in everything that I can do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the idea too, is that when you're working
it's not
to
like
respect,
even like when all else fails.
No, but when you're working to respect, you're working to connect, you're working to solve, all is left to do is to trust, because you have done what you can do. And the idea of trust too is that idea of, what is our job and what are we actually in control of? And that is ourselves. That's all we can actually do. And so that's why all of these steps involve what we do, not what our kids necessarily do, or how what we do is even necessarily received. We just have to know we're coming from a real place. That's why I feel like modeling is the best thing we can do. Trust isn't just sit back and wait. You can still be doing things when you're trusting.
Trust is really, really fucking hard work.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's all of these kind of things that are behind the scenes that are more invisible, like modeling, like playing the long game, like observing, just waiting and observing and being patient, like choosing to be unruffled and calm. And those things sound, like we said,
less reactive,
like passive things, but choosing to be calm and patient, that's really hard work, you know?
That's not a default.
That's not something you just stop doing. That is an active thing that you do. And it's challenging. So,
for sure.
Yeah. What are some of the other things at play for this last step?
Well, I think trust in that all of these challenges have value. And I think that sometimes we get to the end of one of these things and we're just like, oh my God, like, what was the point of all of this? Why is this happening to me? Why are we going through this needless conflict and these stupid challenges? Like, why can't we all just get along? And what we talk about a lot is that the hard stuff's the good stuff. And we really believe that in the trust of these challenges as helping us to build skills, to get closer, to learn about ourselves, to learn about other people. They have inherent value and worth, these difficult things. So
the hard stuff's the good stuff.
The hard stuff is really the good stuff. Also, the idea of playing the long game, you know, that things take a while, that things don't happen overnight.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the biggest reasons for a lot of our discomfort as parents is we don't have a good sense for developmental readiness or how long things should take. And so our expectations are constantly coming up against a wall, and we end up like unleashing that on our child or feeling like a failure ourselves or whatever it is. So just kind of, thinking about the long game as we're taking a couple steps forward. Okay, we take a step back. We take 5 steps forward. Okay, we might take a couple back. All of it, nothing is wasted. It's all progress, and the journey itself is the destination. We're not, and I think part of the problem is our culture is so focused on these milestones, and it starts so young. When can they smile? When can they roll over? When can they crawl? When can they walk? Let's get them there faster. Let's push it all along. Let's make them into adults.
When can they be independent, dressing themselves?
When can they use a fucking
cooking
fork?
Their whatever,
And all of those things are very valuable. And I was very happy when my kid could use a fork, like really happy.
But I think that the idea behind trust is valuing authentic progress. And the idea behind all of these things is that we want ourselves to be guided authentically, not reactively or instinctually, but authentically and intuitively. And we want our kids to be doing that too. We want them to move through challenges and know their emotions. We want them to move through challenges and know their rights for their body or their will, to be able to express themselves.
How to ask questions and solve problems.
Right. We want all of those things, and those things take time. And obviously, I think it's really easy to be like, well, we're not raising kids, we're raising mini adults, so they should be able to do this and do that, and why haven't they done it yet? And this whole idea between trust, this last step, is saying, if we really want these things to connect authentically with our kids, we don't want to over-control them or force them to happen too soon. We just have to keep nurturing, keep supporting, keep guiding, keep modeling with the trust that these things are going to be happening and moving forward. And it's going to be getting in there in a way that's not about us, that's actually about them, that they can connect to authentically.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was going to say.
Sorry.
It's okay. Kind of bulldozed me there. What else? I can't even read your handwriting.
We took some notes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the opposite of trust is fear. So it's getting really attuned with why we're scared, why we're worried. After doing all of those steps, working really hard to connect and collaborate and respect,
and I think
and all of those things.
The big ask in trust, like we've talked about, it feels like doing nothing. It feels like sitting back and waiting and all these things.
It feels permissive.
Right, and that's I don't think anyone would really have a problem with that, except it's very uncomfortable. And trusting is about sitting in the discomfort, waiting, being patient, being calm, observing. All of these, trust is not just a thing, it's all of these things that you have to do, most of which require you shifting your energies away from reactivity, being active, controlling, talking, pushing, perseverating, stressing, worrying, all these things, to a place of it's almost like a meditative state,
like a stasis, a calm kind of as is.
Yeah, with this big picture mentality, this kind of like courageous wisdom that it's going to be okay, that everyone's going to get where they need to do. Everyone's doing what they need to do. Everyone's going to get where they need to go, and we're going to keep running through the steps.
And that every day is a new opportunity. And that's trust too, is having that faith that today sucked big time. It was hard. I didn't react the way I wanted to. My kid doesn't seem to be building these skills that I'm really trying to instill in them. Things didn't go that well, but there's always tomorrow. There's always trust in not just our kid and their ability to develop and whatever, but in ourselves to act differently the next time or to make a different choice.
Let the step be that like soft hand stroking your head at the end of the night when you like have cried it out a little bit. And it's just like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
And doing this though, I mean, that's what we need right now. But those are the parents we want to be to our kids so that they don't need a hand stroking their heads when they're 35 years old. How am I?
We're 36.
36. When they're 36 years old, they don't have to have a hand stroking their forehead necessarily, so that they will have the tools of respecting themselves and others, of connecting with themselves and other people, of problem solving for themselves with other people in order to...
And having a sense of security, which trust is a confidence, is a self-assuredness, is a balance.
That
an inner
sense
balance.
of a rock, an inner balance, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the last thing about trust, when you get that perspective, when you're able to let go and be in that space and accept things as is, having done all the work that you're doing, it's able to give you the opportunity, like you said, to lighten up, to loosen up, and to enjoy your life a little bit more.
Yeah, even and especially through the hard times.
And to be able to see the beautiful things, the funny things, the amazing things that maybe we wouldn't notice when we're anger balls.
When we're in the matrix.
In the matrix, toiling around in there. So to give ourselves grace, to give our kids grace, and to just celebrate those small victories and those little moments that could really easily be lost otherwise.
I agree.
Yeah.
Al looks kind of bored. So, in conclusion, no, I don't know.
I don't know how long this was. If you're still around, props. Thanks for hanging in there. We just felt like it was important to just let you know where we're coming from and how we work with these challenges. I don't know if it resonated with you.
It was a lot of like swirly, meta, overview-y kind of stuff.
Yeah, we were really just kind of ranting and riffing a bit. We would like to do things that are a little bit more organized, but as we said, this is part of our process. This is kind of how we are becoming and growing up in the world with our kids, and we hope that it's helping you to want to grow up too in your own way. In your own family.
Yeah. And I think we're going to be talking about our empowerments in the next episode. And we'll kind of run you through all of those to give you just a base understanding of how we might be applying those in different contexts of our kind of Dear Upbringing and empowerment
Then
episodes.
when you like hear us, talking about them and stuff, you won't be like, what does we welcome all emotions mean? They're all pretty self-explanatory, but why are they talking about that?
Or why do we want to do that a little bit?
Sure.
So a little bit of the why behind. And thanks for sticking with us with so many intros to everything.
Yeah, it's just kind of our process.
Yeah, it just feels good.
Anyway, give us feedback. Let us know what you're thinking, what you're going through. Keep sending us your Dear Upbringings. We're collecting them, and we will get to them, we promise. So I think that's it. Signing off. And
until next time.
Let's show up and grow up. Grow together with somebody and to like maybe have a little bit of fun in the process. Yeah. Okay, Al. Yep. Oh, we didn't say so when we are a seeker, you raise a seeker, but
that's okay.
It's clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
We basically said it.
Okay.
What do you think? That was okay?
It was fine.
Okay.
Whatever. We're just moving through.